All right, let's jump right into this explainer. If you're a cloud professional gearing up to tackle your next certification, you already know the pressure is on. The whole landscape is shifting fast, and honestly, the expectations from enterprise environments are just higher than ever before. You really don't just need a certificate anymore. You need the actual practical skills to back it up. So today we're going to break down exactly how you can prepare smart, pass with total confidence, and walk away with genuine architectural expertise.
Look, we've got to kick things off by addressing the elephant in the room, that anxiety a lot of exam takers are feeling right now. The big question is, are you ready to stop just memorizing trivia and start building real AI applications? Because Microsoft has made a massive shift here. The AI-200 exam is the next evolution of their developer path, basically replacing the old AZ-204. And this completely reflects an industry-wide pivot toward an AI-first reality. The days of simply remembering which button to click in a portal, yeah, those are over. Now you're expected to know how to integrate generative AI, manage AI agents, and build highly scalable, cloud-native architectures.
So our absolute best tool for tackling this new reality is the Get It Done Certified Guide. Think of this as your playbook specifically designed for the AI-200. It brilliantly bridges the gap between that old-school memorization and modern, hands-on application engineering. It is packed with over 500 exam-style questions. But listen, these aren't just random facts. They're intricate, scenario-based questions built to simulate the exact real-world cloud architecture decisions you're going to face on the job and for sure on the test.
Let's talk about why this specific approach is so incredibly critical. We really have to contrast those outdated dump-style memorization tactics against the deep architectural trade-offs required today. I mean, memorization might help you recall an API name, right? But real-world application means truly understanding the security implications, the cost optimization, and the governance models. When you're building intelligent apps on Azure, you have to know exactly why one service is a better fit than another for a specific workload. And this guide forces you to practice that exact production-level decision-making process.
Now, if you're serious about mastering these architectures, cloudcertificationstore.com is hands down your ultimate destination. They're the publishers behind the Get It Done Certified series. And if you look at their catalog, it's wild. They don't just stop at Azure. They offer these incredibly comprehensive multi-cloud bundles covering AWS, Google Cloud, and even NVIDIA. So if you're a technical leader or an architect wanting more than just a piece of paper, this is your hub. It's all about enterprise-grade depth that maps directly to real-world cloud workloads.
Okay, let's actually put this into practice. We're going to run a fast-paced, gamified challenge right now, kind of simulating the ticking clock you'll feel during the exam. Here's a real scenario pulled straight from the guide. You're building a Python-based AI document search app. You need to retrieve documents by semantic similarity, and you need to filter those results by department. The key constraints here: you absolutely need low latency retrieval, and you have to keep your request unit, or RU, consumption completely predictable.
Let's rapidly cycle through your choices. Option A. Do you store embeddings as blob metadata and query using Azure Storage Lifecycle rules? Option B. Do you put them in Azure Cosmos DB for NoSQL and use a vector index? What about option C? Throwing the embeddings into Azure Service Bus messages? Or maybe option D, using Azure App Configuration and feature flags? Take a second, think about the architecture. Which of these services actually supports semantic similarity and metadata filtering in the exact same model?
And boom, option B, Azure Cosmos DB for NoSQL, is the winner here. It's the perfect fit because it lets you store both your application data and your vector embeddings in the exact same logical data model. By setting up a vector index, you enable highly efficient similarity searches without having to scan every single item in your database. Plus, when you use metadata filters, like checking the department status, you shrink the search space, which perfectly satisfies our requirement to keep those request units totally predictable.
But you know, it's honestly just as important to understand why the alternatives fail the architectural smell test. And cloudcertificationstore.com provides detailed breakdowns for every single option. Take Azure Blob Storage, for example. Great for storing massive binary files, but blob metadata is definitely not built for vector similarity search, and lifecycle rules are just for moving data between storage tiers. Azure Service Bus? That's a messaging service for asynchronous communication. Storing embeddings in messages would be a nightmare because messages are meant to be consumed and immediately deleted. And Azure App Config? That's for centralized settings, not for acting as a heavy-duty search database.
All right, let's keep the momentum going with our second rapid-fire exam-style question. This one tests you on secure, environment-specific model configurations. Imagine you're containerizing an AI inference API and deploying it to Azure Container Apps.
Your operations team needs to be able to update configuration values, like a specific model endpoint URL for different environments, but they cannot rebuild the container image. So, how do you pull this off? Building scalable AI means knowing exactly how to handle sensitive settings safely. Here are the options. Option A, hardcode the URLs in the Docker file and rebuild for each environment. Option B, store configs in Azure Container Registry tags. Option C, use environment variables for the container app and pull the sensitive values from Azure Key Vault. Or Option D, utilize Azure Blob Storage Access Tiers.
If you picked option C, Azure Key Vault and environment variables, you hit the nail on the head. Azure Container Apps fully supports injecting environment variables and secret references at runtime. So you keep your highly sensitive values locked down in Key Vault, and you completely separate your configuration from your container image, which is exactly how modern, cloud-native applications are supposed to be built.
This scenario really highlights a core philosophy of the exam: dynamic runtime injection versus hard-coded risk. Think about it. If you went with option A and hard-coded those settings into your Docker file, you're literally creating a unique image for every single environment. That drastically increases operational risk, makes your deployment super brittle, and forces a full build cycle just to update a single URL. And ACR tags? Those are for identifying image versions, not holding runtime configs. The detailed explanations you get in these guides train your brain to spot these operational anti-patterns instantly.
Okay, let's take a quick breather and look at the structured readiness toolkit this guide provides. Before you walk into that testing center, you need to validate your knowledge across 5 core domains. First up, developing AI-powered applications. This is where you verify your Azure SDK and API chops. Second, integrating Azure AI services. Third, implementing generative AI and large language models, which, as we know, is absolutely huge right now. Fourth, building agentic and intelligent workflows. And finally, securing, deploying, and monitoring your AI solutions. Using a structured scorecard like this ensures you have 0 blind spots on exam day.
Zooming back out, this is exactly why cloudcertificationstore.com is such an invaluable resource for your long-term career. They're really the destination for engineers who demand real-world understanding alongside their certs. Whether you're checking out the Microsoft AB series for agentic AI, the Fundamentals Multi-Cloud Bundle, or going deep into machine learning and fabric data engineering, every single practice set is engineered to mirror actual, production-level decision-making. And honestly, this quote from their learners pretty much says it all. Over 90% of the questions matched what they saw on the live test. I mean, that is just a massively reassuring stat. When you're practicing with enterprise-grade materials that actually reflect the style, the difficulty, and the exact domain coverage of the real thing, you get to walk into that testing center with absolute confidence. So, here is your action item for today. If you want to set yourself up to pass on the very first attempt, head over to cloudcertificationstore.com. You can grab these incredibly affordable multi-cloud bundles loaded with those crucial exam-style questions. And definitely don't miss their free resources hub for preview guides and PDFs. It is, without a doubt, one of the smartest investments you can make in your cloud architecture journey. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. Are you preparing just to pass a test, or are you preparing to actually build the future of AI? The certifications are great, they open doors, but it's that real-world architectural expertise that will ultimately define your career. Equip yourself with the right tools, focus on the architecture, and go get it done. Thanks so much for joining me, and happy studying!